see Paul Giamatti perform the entire Book of Job.
Ooh.
We would live through the Joplin tornado, and that his response, to help the disaster, Theodore of War from here in town came into Joplin, and they just let him perform the entire Book of Job. I mean, that's a good way to respond to a disaster if you're gonna have theater, you know.
That is kind of odd. Yeah, I mean, terrible circumstance, but kind of
Yeah, it
awesome.
was, yeah, it was very awful. I mean, I wrote this one as a response. Harry Rides the Danger as a response to, yeah, it's a children's horror book, which is kind of more your speed, but it was used for trauma therapists to help like kids debrief like horrific things like that, and it was in the wake of that. It was like very visceral. These children play acting tornado and things like that. Like you find that art heals. As you're making it and interacting with it. Obviously, it makes you sick too. Like,
Sure.
but on the other side of it, have you found has it improved your life or well being in other ways?
I wait before we do that. I have to ask the Paul Giamatti performance of the Book of
Yeah.
Job
Oh, sure.
because weather had devastated an area. I mean, the Book of Job ends with God showing up as a weather event.
It does.
Like, was that?
And
did the audience talk about how like this feels insensitive, or that's very very poignant?
Well, that's a fun thing. That's actually the fun thing about Theater of War, and I've seen multiple things here. So my wife, I didn't mean to talk about all this, but my wife's actually from Ferguson, and we moved to New York like right when Hurricane Sandy happened, and we were in Tunisia on our honeymoon, the year of the Arab Spring, and I said,
Wow.
we did Galveston and Katrina. So like these sort of things happen a lot. In various ways, and but so when we've seen them here, they did the first one we saw was Antigone and Ferguson. We knew about them because of the Joplin thing, but they brought all of these performers from Ferguson, and including families of people that have been incarcerated or shot, and then like police officers and like all kinds of people from the community to sing as the Grecian choir. Wow. And then talk about this. And so what they did, they perform Antigone, and then afterwards they do a question and answer. And it's mostly with people in the audience. Like the first invitees are people who like have suffered like violence at the hands of police, or were debriefing trauma after having shot someone, or these kinds of things. We saw King Lear at a Bronx hospital that deals with mental health. And Lear is about a tyrant losing his mind and staying on the throne. Completely irrelevant, but it's a it's a wonderful piece about that. And so they did the same thing. Hey, what's your family going through in terms of dementia? And so it's insensitive in the way that sometimes life doesn't come with a trigger warning.
Yeah.
And so to use my name in a pejorative sense, like art can kind of lance the boil and like and actually get us somewhere, Yeah. So it's a long answer. Yeah, it does end with a storm, but it gave voice in a way that it might not have. And like, you're still gonna have like old ladies who like remember his first works who are like, Paul Giamatti's on the stage. I don't care that I lost everything. It's all right. And I was like, look, extreme home makeover. They say that person's house. That kind of thing. So,
I mean, as an artist, like you would love to be able to change people's lives more, right? But he isn't like infinitely rich, and that is sort of the greatest gift that he could possibly give to people who have lost a lot. It is wonderfully generous, and if it touches that audience, then it is truly a beautiful act.
Oh yeah, it's incredible, and it's funny too because like years later, I also haven't talked about this in public forum, but years later we were watching Macy's Day Parade, and I swear it was Paul Giamatti that came up to us and spent the entire parade just BSing with us and would not tell us his name and would not tell us what he did for a living. Like he had a beanie on, and so it was a little obscured. Tara's like 80% there, but I'm like convinced this was him. This stuff just happens in the city, and so for me, this is this like weird echoing moment. And for her, she's like doubting it the entire time. I was like, dude, he was just like watching balloons with us all afternoon, man, and like heckling. Yeah, it's a gift. It's like the butcher, the baker, and the novel stick maker. Like,